Hi, I'm Bryn Blaze with the Career Conversations, and today I'm interviewing Michael Holl, who is a teacher.
Oh, it is great to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this. I think it's great. It's awesome. And I'm looking forward to watching everybody else.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited to finally post them for everyone. The first question I'm going to ask you is, in 3 to 5 words, can you describe who you were as a high school student?
So this was the one that, it's kind of difficult to put it into 3 to 5 words.
Yeah.
Right. And, initially I was thinking, I could, say that I was studious and mature and, you know, hardworking and I didn't procrastinate. But all the anti words came up. So I was a procrastinator.
Mhm.
I and I know it's more than 3 to 5 words, but I didn't. I would say at that time I wasn't living up to my full potential. Right. I think I was immature.
Yeah.
Um, I was anti-click. Right. So that was something I actually was pretty proud of in high school. We had a really tight class and I went, obviously going to school in Groton, it's small and you kind of learn how to, I don't know, kind of fit in with everybody. At least I did, right? That was just a good description of me.
Yeah, it's pretty hard around here to have clicks. Everyone just kind of merges together.
And if we did, the clicks would be so small.
They'd be so small. uh, Can you share a bit about your professional journey, where you started to where you are today?
All right. So professional journey. I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, right? So I was fortunate in that respect. All through school, math came really easy to me. Um, so I gravitated towards that in college. Went to SUNY Brockport to get my teaching degree to be able to teach mathematics. And um, well, I don't want to make a long story short. I can tell you the story. You know, all of education really, but math especially builds on strong foundations, right? And I did okay in high school, and things did come easy. And when things didn't come easy, I just found a way to get by, right? And this is where I wasn't living up to my full potential. I mean, I didn't spend a lot of extra time. That if I didn't understand something, I probably should have been studying. I probably should have been going asking my teachers. But I was happy with the 80, right? As long as I wasn't failing. My parents really didn't get too involved in my academics. As long as I stayed off their radar, I was good.
Yeah.
Fast forward to going to Brockport, I jumped right into math. I took Calculus 1, Calculus 2. I had a really, sweet older professor, this man, and he basically said, if you show up every day and you try, right, you don't have to worry about like doing poorly in the class, right? So I showed up every day. It was an early morning class. My goal first year of college was to get all my classes done before noon. So I was able to accomplish that goal almost every day of the week, except for like a Tuesday night. I had like a 6 to 9 class. But for the most part, my days were done by 1 o'clock. And so I went to his Calc 1 class and I showed up every day and I attempted to do the work and the exams would come and I wouldn't do that great on the exams. But by the end of Calc 1, I think I ended with like a B minus B somewhere in there. Okay. Similar within my mindset at the time was good enough, right? Calc 2 went the very, very similar way. Kind of didn't do well on exams because now I look back and I think, well, you didn't do well on the exams because you didn't know the material, right? And this is the foundation part. I'm taking a long way too. Did okay, B minus, B plus, somewhere in there on Calc 2, and then the next semester I took Calc 3, and my sweet old professor retired. So I had a brand new professor who had a different kind of look on things where he said, well, I don't care if you come to class or not, but as long as you pass the exams and you do all the work and that's where I really fell down, right? It is honestly the one class that I failed in college. And at that point I had lost so much of the foundation part because I was kind of given those grades. I didn't really earn those grades. And so from when the math got really complex, that's kind of where I lost interest because I didn't know what I was doing and I was kind of behind the 8 ball. And I made the decision to switch to health science education. Right. I still wanted to teach. And and Brockport was known for nursing,
Yeah.
and they had a real strong health science program. So I switched to health science and finished out my schooling to be a health teacher, right?
Mhm.
And it was great.
Mhm.
Had a really great time. Had great experiences. Student taught in 3 different schools in Rochester, in the Rochester area. Saw a lot of like different uh, places that I was able to teach in.
Mhm.
Small communities like Groton, a really affluent
Mhm.
community in Rochester and Brighton. So I got to see kind of how the other half lives.
Yeah.
I taught in an inner city elementary school for my student teaching, which was an eye-opening experience. You know, it's just something coming from a small town
Yeah.
you don't really understand until you're in it.
Mhm.
Just the lack of resources, the lack of teachers. Like you
Mhm.
know, not many teachers are raising their hand to go work in
Yeah.
underserved communities. Um, but a good experience nonetheless. I got to see a lot of different stuff.
Mhm.
I graduated, and after a short trip to Alaska for the summer,
Mhm.
as my little graduation present to myself,
Aw.
I packed up everything in my car. I moved to Baltimore, Maryland, with some friends from school,
Mhm.
and I got a job as a full-time substitute teaching math.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so I kind of got back to it a little bit in at Northeast High School in Pasadena, Maryland, outside of Baltimore, Maryland, and it was great. It was awesome. I think at the time I was making right around like 25, $27,000 a year.
Okay.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Um, but it still wasn't a lot then, right? It
Yeah.
still wasn't enough to really live on. I was working another job, in a bar restaurant, bartending probably 4 or 5 nights a week
Mhm.
while I was teaching. And I got done with that year with the hopes that I got my foot in the door and I could, move into more of a full-time job.
Mhm.
And my brother owned a company in Washington, D.C. And he said, what are you doing this summer? One of the perks of being a teacher, right? You have the summers off.
Mhm.
And I was just going to put in more hours at the restaurant I worked at,
Yeah.
right? And so he owned this company, and he asked me to come out and give it a try. He said, "Why don't you come out here, give sales a try, see what you think?" So it's only about a 45-minute to an hour commute. It was in Arlington, Virginia, and I went out and I tried my hand at selling office furniture. And the first summer that I worked, and within the first 2.5 months, I had already made a lot more than what I get paid as the whole year as a teacher, right? So that's where my kind of divide happened. It was hard at that stage of my life with student loans and bills and rent and everything else,
Yeah.
to really turn down the opportunity to make a real living wage,
Mhm.
or better than a living wage, more money than I really ever saw myself making. Not that it was,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not retirement money, but it was a lot more than teaching. I think
Mhm.
it was like 40 grand in the first 2 months. And compared to 24,000
A
in a
year.
full year. It was nice. It was good money. And so I ended up scrapping the teaching
Mhm.
and going into this sales profession, selling office furniture. I still remember my mom was super upset because she really was, she, worked for BOCES and
Mhm.
the educational system, and she thought it was great that I was going into teaching. My sister was a teacher,
Yeah.
and for me to kind of throw away all that college to go sell,
So. Yeah.
it was a tough pill to swallow, right?
Mhm.
But she understood the financial aspect of it, so I went and did that. And again, now I'll make it short. Long story short, after many, many years, 20 years of selling office furniture, right? A lot of those years was with specifically my brother's small company. We went from like 4 employees to I think 27 or 30 employees at one point, where the company was then merged with 2 other furniture dealerships, and then they were bought again by another larger dealership.
Mhm.
Um, I decided to move my family back to New York in 2008, just because I had a young son at the time, and I had my daughter was on the way,
Mhm.
right? And being from Groton,
Yeah.
living inside the Beltway in Washington D.C., there were a lot of things. I started thinking about how my kid's going to get to school, and somebody told me, "Oh, in kindergarten, like they put them on a city bus, right?" And things like that were very uncomfortable for
Yeah.
me because it's not what I was used to.
Mhm.
You know, my wife was from a bigger city, and she was like, "What's the big deal?" So we started looking at things. We were looking at houses. Houses, they were very expensive, and for what we could, we were pre-approved for a fair amount of money, but $500,000, $650,000 doesn't buy you a whole lot in the
Yeah.
Washington D.C. area, right? It's not the house with a white picket fence with a big yard for your dogs and all that. It's a condo.
Yeah.
So I found a place up here. We moved up to New York. I briefly worked for Intertech in Portland, and for about a year, and then I went back to my furniture company again, and I did that from up here for a while, which I was commuting back and forth at first every week, and then it was like every 2 weeks, and then as a few years went by, it was more when I needed to go down and see clients and have projects going on, whatever. And while this was all going on, about every 5 years, I would have this epiphany of, man, I really miss teaching, right? And it was always like kind of sucking me back. But even at, this sounds absurd now, but even at 25 years old, I was thinking, I'm too old. I can't switch careers again, right? Even at 30, which now looking back, I'm like 30 was so young, right?
Yeah.
It's never too late is my point, right? At 30, man, I really should go back to teaching. I really miss it. I really enjoyed it, and 35, 40, I'm still having these thoughts, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm 40 now. There's no way, right? And then 45, right? The magic number where the stars aligned, a great opportunity to come here and teach came along, and it was just too, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Just, again, stars were just lining up perfectly. This great opportunity to get back to teaching at my alma mater. And it was just too good to be true, right? So I came back. It was right during COVID, so I come right back into virtual classes and completely not the traditional setting that you'd imagine teaching in.
Yeah.
And so to this year this will be my 5th year, right? Or this is my 5th year,
something right? Like that.
And I love it, right? So, I tell people all the time, if you find a job, everybody says if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life, right?
Yes.
That's the cliche. But it truly, if you wake up in the morning and you look forward to going into your office and your job, whatever that may be, consider yourself fortunate, right?
Yes.
Because let's be honest, work is work.
Yeah.
If it was fun, they'd call it fun. Yeah. But my job is fun. Yeah. Right? And I do enjoy it. And so that's how I got back into the teaching thing.
Okay. Wow. Very interesting. I didn't even know all that.
No.
That's pretty crazy.
I swore I told that story in class.
I probably was doing other things. It was probably like the 2 weeks that I wasn't there to begin. Awesome. You talked a lot about your decision making throughout your process of becoming a teacher that you are now. What were the standout challenges of that process? Of
becoming the teacher I am now.
Yeah.
All right. So again, I'll go back to the challenge. One big challenge again was my age.
Yeah.
Right. To make a career change this late was terrifying. And it just goes, again, it's something you can't go back, right? You can't go back in time. I tell young people all the time, like, you have the most precious gift right now. Like, you're never going to be whatever age you are right now. You're never going to be that age again.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't make these choices later in life, right? But the challenge is how to get there, right? New York State has some pretty strict guidelines on who they let be teachers and who they don't, right? So even I never did get my master's degree. That was something that I had to do within 5 years of like getting that job in Maryland. And once I wasn't in teaching anymore, I kind of let my certificates expire and all that. And when I came back, they had a nice program where there was a pathway for me because I have so much career experience, and I really teach technically it's a CTE class, career technical ed. And so they take into account your experience in the field, right? Yeah. So being a business teacher and the fact that I pretty much handled things from, human resources, hiring and firing, to managing teams, to being in, early in the early years when we were a smaller company, being in those leadership meetings,
Mhm.
right? And also just working with my clients, estimates and invoices and purchase orders and,
Yeah.
project management,
Mhm.
marketing, right? So
Yeah.
when you're in sales, you do like all those things a lot of times.
Mhm.
And so they have a nice program in New York where you can use some of that experience as part of your kind of in lieu of or as part of your master's degree. So I did have to go back to Oswego and I think I ended up taking another additional 15 graduate credits
Okay.
in order to get my um, teaching certificate from New York State. So that was a big challenge,
Yeah.
where you're working a full-time job.
Mhm.
You are, I coach two sports, two varsity sports, and to throw 15 credit hours, I think I completed those in about 18 months,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's basically a full-time, but it's a full-time class load, but for
Yeah.
like a semester, I finished in about a year and a half.
Mhm.
That was challenging,
Yeah.
right? Getting home late after a basketball game, 10,
Mhm.
11 o'clock at night, and having to write a paper,
Yeah.
or, jump on and, read a passage that we're supposed to be reading and responding to. And it
Yeah.
was all online, which made it convenient, but it was challenging. It was difficult.
Yeah.
So I would say that little education piece at the end that you kind of had to do on top of
Yeah.
a full-time job,
Mhm.
it was they definitely make sure people are doing this that want to do it, right?
Yeah.
It's not a job you just walk into and say, "Oh yeah, I'll sign up."
Yeah.
Like, where do I sit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
So I would say that.
Okay. Okay. That's really interesting. I'm glad that there are opportunities for people to do that.
Oh, I'm really glad,
Yeah.
right? They're, otherwise, like you said, it's easy to be, you kind of get stuck in a certain role, and
Yeah.
the longer you stay in that role, the more stuck you get,
Mhm.
right? And it's probably going to lead into questions you have later. So I'll wait for that.
Okay.
I have some other stuff. I'll wait.
Okay. Um, what is your favorite part of your job now? Going through that entire process. What do you look to?
My favorite part of this job, um, I mean, it's again, everything's cliche.
Of course.
I get to work with students, right?
Yeah.
Keeps me young,
Mhm.
right? We have a lot of great kids at Groton,
Yeah.
right? And just kids from different backgrounds, kids that are interested in different things, kids that teach me stuff on the daily,
Mhm.
right? I mean, if you don't feel that as a teacher,
Mhm.
you're probably in the wrong profession,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, I have a lot of people I know, and we have conversations about teaching, and they're like, I wouldn't last a day, right? I couldn't imagine having to deal with,
Yeah.
20 kids or 25 kids or even 5 kids
Yeah.
all day long, right?
Yeah.
And it is truly who you are and what,
Mhm.
and it's fine, right? Some people just aren't, that's not their thing.
Yeah.
But as a teacher, I believe you have to like enjoy that, right? You have to enjoy being around young people.
Yeah.
So I mean that's number one, and here at Groton, I have I feel like we have some of the greatest colleagues, like the people I work with, the people I work for, right?
Mhm.
My bosses are great, and I'm not just saying that because they might see that.
Cameras are rolling.
But it's an overall really good environment to work in.
Mhm.
And just seeing the successes now that I've been here a few years,
Yeah.
right? And when I see some of my students doing things
Mhm.
that, seeing them, watching them be successful
Yeah.
and figuring out what they want to do and them having an impact on other people's lives,
Mhm.
right? That's important to me,
Yeah.
because I still think of my teachers, right? I've been
Of
out of
course.
school 32 years out
Mhm.
of high school. And I still think about those teachers that had an impact on me,
Yeah.
right? And, I can only hope that someday there's a couple kids that maybe remember me.
Maybe.
And maybe.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see. Going off that, what is your least favorite part of the job?
So it's a tough one. Least favorite part of the job. And it's not, oh, how do I say this? It's not always, but I guess sometimes it's the lack of control over certain things.
Mhm.
Lack of control over what the students are being tested on,
Yes.
right? Is it really is that test going to determine what they're, how they are in the future,
Yeah.
or what practical knowledge they have? I mean, one of the nice things about the class I teach is my hands aren't really tied to
Yeah.
those things like a lot of other uh, core subjects are.
Mhm.
um, I try to keep things as like practical as possible, like things that kids are going to leave here and they're really going to use. And
Yeah.
like I said, if a kid starts a retirement account when they're 18 or 20 or 22 because of something I said,
Mm-hmm.
right, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
And I hope they all do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, so that I would say like some of those that type of stuff, like the testing stuff, like do we really need to teach a kid this? Well, we do because it's on the test. They got to do well on the test in order to um, and so yeah, so just not having control, kind of having your hands tied when it comes to certain things, I guess would be,
Yeah.
that's my least favorite part,
I see.
because there are things that are kind of dictated and we have to do,
Yeah.
and some of those things I don't always agree with,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. I feel specifically with your class, considering that I took it, yours is like the core classes we actually need to be learning anyway, like facts class. There
Right.
was one, it was like home ec or
Yeah.
whatever that we
Yeah.
ended up having to get rid of.
That's the facts thing that some
Yeah.
schools still have, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It is. Those are things you need to, are nice to have a little jump start on when
Exactly.
you're becoming
A little
an
knowledge
adult,
about.
right?
Yeah.
And that can be as simple as, how do I do laundry,
Exactly.
right? Or how do we cook? These are, and again, those things that you don't learn in school,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to go down the road and you kind of learn, I'd say, through the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I need to cook something. I don't know how to cook
How do I
yet,
do that?
but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to mess it up a bunch before I get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are the CTE, right? The
Yeah.
career and technical ed. Those are the things that's where I do love the CTE program, where these real world
Yes.
applications. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need to know science and we don't need to know anatomy and physiology,
Yeah.
and we don't, because I mean, I want my doctor
To
know those things, right? There's certain things that they need to know. Um, you know, my my nephew just got a job with an insurance company, and it's important that he knows how to analyze data.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he went to school for,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so I mean, those things are important too. And
Yes,
I'm not taking anything away from anything, the math, the history, the science.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish I had a class like mine
Yes.
when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So my predecessor started very shortly after I left high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I was out of school maybe, I don't know, probably 5 years. And that's when Mrs. Carr
Yes.
started the business classes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I covered it pretty good. But
Yeah.
things that are outside of your control, things you're kind of mandated to do, and it doesn't always make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say is my least favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
So, and conversely, my favorite part is seeing my students be successful. My least favorite part sometimes is seeing my students sometimes not be successful,
Yeah.
right, and struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that's gonna be tough.
it is, and again, though, as I mentioned before, right, the thing that kids have that us old people don't is time.
Yeah.
Right. So even if you struggle for 10 years, right, you're only 27, 28 years old.
Exactly.
Right. So there's plenty of time. If I could go back at 27, 28 right now, I would in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah.
You could do anything.
Yeah.
Right, with that kind of time.
And again, like you said, you don't realize until
it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. What are some like daily tasks and responsibilities that you do?
So daily tasks, I mean, as from a teaching standpoint, right, there's the simple answer. There's the lesson plans.
Yeah.
Right. There's the trying to tweak things, because let's be honest, each class is a little different. They're individual, right? Yeah. The classes have their own personality.
Yes.
So what works with one class doesn't always work with another class. So that part of it is kind of a daily routine, is kind of tweaking what you already have. Because like I said, let's be honest. I mean, there's certain topics I cover that haven't changed in 50 years. They're probably not going to change in the next 50. There's a chance, right?
Yeah.
But so some of the material I have is year to year, right? There's certain things that, but with some, like I said, it's the same material, but sometimes you just have to tweak it a little bit. But
Mhm.
there's that lesson planning, preparing for those classes. There is the, evaluation, right? You had
Yeah.
your different types of evaluations, to make sure the kids are getting it, right?
Mhm.
Um, you know, any kid could sit down and do an assignment, and once they get it done, check, it's out, and it could have went, one ear out the other.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell kids, I said, if you retain 10% of what you learn in my class,
Mhm.
right, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, like, a lot of it does kind of pass through, right?
Mhm.
And there's certain topics that I hit in three of my classes that is a little bit of review for some kids who did get it the first time. We're like, we already talked about this. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's fine. Doesn't hurt to hear it again. And I'm
Exactly.
hoping by the time they're seniors and they might be in my college career prep class, they've
Mhm.
heard it in business math, career and financial management, and now CCP, or at least one of the other two before they
Yeah.
hear it their senior year.
Mhm.
Um, so assessing to see if the kids get it, and if they're not getting it, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Am I not, am I
Mhm.
not teaching it correctly? Outside of that, again, it's being a lifelong learner,
Mhm.
right? Professional development is a big piece of being an educator,
Mhm.
because unlike some topics that do kind of remain the same,
Yeah.
right? There's some other things that are new, like constantly new. So it could be in my discipline, like something like cryptocurrency,
Mhm.
right? So a few, short years ago. I mean, even though it's been around a long time, it really wasn't popular until,
Yeah.
um, I would say 5 to 10 years ago.
Mhm.
There's new things that come up in business
Yeah.
constantly, right? We talk about streamers
Mhm.
and influencers, and
Yes.
I mean that wasn't really a thing not so long ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like, and those are entrepreneurial,
Mhm.
business type
Yeah.
things. Um, Getting, like I said, being an influencer and getting paid for likes and shares, and
Yeah.
how much interaction
Entertainment.
there is with your segment of whatever you're doing.
Mhm.
Um, Miss Carr probably didn't teach that business class,
Yeah.
25 years ago,
Yeah.
right? Because it wasn't a thing. So I mean, just constantly trying to learn about these new things. One of my strengths is the fact that I did have all that experience,
Mhm.
and there's things you can read in a textbook about business,
Yes.
and that's fine, right?
Mhm.
It's a good foundation,
Yeah.
but real life business sometimes doesn't follow the textbook,
Yeah.
right? So like, I think a lot of the experiences I had, um, helped me kind of be a better educator
Mhm.
because I had those experiences. I'm getting off topic now. But daily, so on the day to day, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And like I said, professional development, it's always something, we have people come into the school. We have opportunities through a joint venture with BOCES and Lansing schools,
Mhm.
where we do, um, on a variety of topics, right? It
Yeah.
could be anything. Like I said, it could be about developing tests.
Mhm.
I think we have a thing going on right now in this team about project-based learning.
Mhm.
We talked about, um, trying to think of I can't think of the term now. It's going to kill me. But basically, designing a curriculum with, starting with the end result,
Yes.
and it's a reverse design, right?
Mhm.
You come up with what you want the kids to know, and then what do I need to do throughout the year to get here, right? So you start with your end result, and so we had a lot of, professional development on that. I've done professional development on, um, therapeutic crisis intervention for schools, right? Talking about de-escalation, and a very small part of that is, if you had to restrain somebody, and the proper way to do that so
Yeah.
you're not nobody's getting hurt.
Mhm.
You know those types of tools, like, you're constantly learning and learning and learning and learning, and that doesn't go away,
Yep.
right? Some of our most veteran teachers still attend the PDs,
Mhm.
right? And that is part of the certification process. Like, you're required to do a designated number of hours of PD,
Hmm.
over time.
I see. I see. How are you evaluated as a teacher?
So we are evaluated a couple different ways. We currently, I have to actually do it this week. We have a student learning objectives,
Mhm.
right? SLOs, we call them.
Mhm.
We kind of do a pre-test in the beginning of the year, and we do a post-test at the end to see how much the kids grew over the year,
Mhm.
in the knowledge of the subject. I have observations, right? My
Yeah.
administrators come into the classroom, they watch you teach, they watch how you interact with the kids.
Mhm.
Um, so there's kind of various ways that people will, and sometimes we just have people, sometimes admin will just stop in,
Yeah.
right? Stop by.
Yeah.
I've gone and watched other teachers who I respect and who I think are really good at what they do,
Mhm.
just to see how they handle certain things where I might see shortcomings in my own,
Mhm.
you know. Um, so there's a lot of different ways you can be evaluated. But we kind of basically observations. We get scores. You get kind of evaluated on what you do outside of teaching,
Mhm.
right? So it's still within the district, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I teach a class, but are you involved in? Are you do you chair a club, or
Mhm.
are you a chair of a department, or do you coach,
Mhm.
right? Do you all these extracurricular things that
Yeah.
teachers do on the outside that maybe the general public doesn't really get to see, right?
I
So
see.
that's all part of your evaluation as well.
Okay. And what are the consequences of either good or bad side of your evaluation?
Consequences of good or bad side. So, I mean, I think the good thing about an evaluation,
Mhm.
even if you were to get a bad score,
Yeah.
um, would be the fact that, I've kind of mentioned it before, but I value the opinions
Yes.
of these the people who come to observe me,
Mhm.
right? In most cases, they've either been a classroom teacher for a long time, or they've been around the education system for a long time. They've seen what works and doesn't work. When I talked about tweaking my plans and doing those things,
Yeah.
um, they've already done that,
Mhm.
right? So I look at that as, okay, you've been doing this for 25 years. I've been doing it for 4, right?
Yeah.
If you have any tips or pointers, like if you have any constructive criticism for me, absolutely. Like I
Yeah.
want that, right? So I mean, that would be the, you know, the, in my case, that's the most, I guess, of a repercussion that I've
Gotcha.
had of like, hey, you can do this a little better,
Okay.
maybe try this and try that, and just that constructive criticism.
Mhm.
Um, and on the good side of it, again, it's not New York State's a little different than a normal corporate job, right?
Yeah.
In a corporate job, if you have a great review and you're glowing all across the board,
Mhm.
they might, you might be able to get a raise out of that, or
Yeah.
you might get a bonus or whatever. So all our contracts are predetermined.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
know what my raise is going to be next year.
Mhm.
I know what I'm going to make the year after that.
Mhm.
There's nothing, that's where the public sector and the
Yeah.
private sector kind of differ, right?
Mhm.
You could be, and this is a valid complaint of
Yeah.
the general community, is that you could be the best teacher in the school or the worst teacher in the school, and you're
Mhm.
kind of on the same,
Yeah.
there, and it's a valid point,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But
Looking back, is there something you wish someone told you before you started this career?
you, I mean, honestly, just I don't quit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I if and because I look back on it now, and again, I had a boss who used to say, "There's no future lived in the past," but I
Yeah.
still do. Right? I look back now, I say, "All right, I just turned 50 this year.
Mhm.
I I think I was 22 years old when I got that first teaching job,
Yeah.
right? I could have 28 years,
Mhm.
right, under my
Experience.
belt, which would be, yeah, the experience. And listen, I'm a business teacher, so that's a pension.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
28 years of, you know, retirement.
Mhm.
It's would have been an opportunity to maybe explore other things inside the educational system, like, going into administration,
Yeah.
or, maybe taking that next step from teacher to a vice principal, principal, superintendent, something else.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest, advice I kind of wish I got then was, just someone that could have said, like, you understand, you like this, right?
Yeah.
You enjoy going to your job. You like being around kids.
Mhm.
You like teaching. Stick with it,
Yeah.
right? Because that is the tough part, right? It's obviously the starting teacher is not lighting the world on fire with their bank account, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, but it is something that is rewarded, I feel, over time,
Mhm.
right? If you stick around.
Do you have any advice for someone who would like to go into this career field?
Um, Advice for somebody that would like to go into this career field. I can speak to this. I would say, kind of, if it's just obviously you got to make a living,
Yeah,
right?
of
So I
course.
mean, I do always kind of go back to financials,
Mhm.
right? You got to make money,
Yes.
right? There's a certain life that you want. You got to love teaching,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I would say, start as early as you can. Like
Mhm.
when you're in college or even high school, like you know, go do youth camps, go
Yeah.
do, you know, youth clubs and
Mhm.
different things to get exposed to make sure it's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I say this for any career,
Yeah.
right? Go job shadow,
Mhm.
right? Go do these things to make sure, right? Because sometimes you think you want to do something until you actually do
Yeah.
it, right? So that'd be my biggest piece of advice. And I was talking about the money thing, right?
Mhm.
I can speak. New York State, in my opinion,
Mhm.
does I believe they do take care of their teachers financially. I think it's fair, right? It's a fair wage. Um, Other states, you got to be careful, right?
Yeah.
When I was in Maryland, the pay was a lot less.
Mhm.
When I was, or I have a friend who was a teacher in North Carolina,
Mhm.
right? And she had been teaching for 10 years.
Yeah.
And we got talking,
Mhm.
about, I had just gotten back into it and she had been and she was and she got and the topic of money came up and
Yeah.
it's kind of like how much do you make or how much do you start at in New
Yeah.
York and I told her and she's like I've been working 10 years, I don't make that yet, right? And
Crazy.
this was a school outside of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Mhm.
And so I mean, like, be aware, like
Yeah.
if you want to move somewhere else, like, some people are fine with that, they just
Yeah.
love it so much. And but I mean, if you have certain financial goals, like, you got to make sure that you're
Yeah.
it's all part of the package,
Yeah.
right? You can't just be. And there's a lot of. I would love to go find a job where I can play golf all the time, but
Yeah.
I'm probably not gonna find one that's gonna pay my mortgage. You know what I mean?
Probably not.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's. I would say get as much experience in the chosen career path as possible to get that real world experience, and
Definitely.
maybe it's something you find out you don't want to do. Right?
Yeah.
Going out and getting outside of your comfort zone is all about finding out what you want to do, but I think in some cases, more importantly, finding out what you don't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes sense. My last one, uh, my last question to you is: what are some non-traditional resources that have helped you, whether they be books, podcasts?
So I mean, I was this, you know,
Yeah.
question was interesting, and I was trying to think, like, I was like, I don't know, I mean, you think about schooling. So for me, the non-traditional part was definitely just my life experience,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And my experience is not everybody's experience, but
Of
I like to
course.
take. I tell the kids every year, I teach from a place of failure. I didn't start saving for retirement as early as you should,
Hmm.
right? And I'm a cautionary tale.
Yes.
Um, I did not. Sorry, I'm just gonna pause that. So, I did not. You know, in my opinion, I didn't buy a house soon enough,
Hmm.
right? I wish I had purchased instead of rented
Yeah.
sooner. Um, there's those experiences that I had
Hmm.
that when I'm teaching the class, I'm like, listen, you could, if you start when you're 30
Yeah.
for your retirement, it's a lot harder to get to your goals as it would be if you started when you were 22.
Yes.
And I know it's just 8 years, but it goes by really quick.
Hmm.
And the older we get, the faster they go by, right?
Yes.
So I would say non-traditionally, that experience that I have, also, and this is my, me trying to be hip and modern and whatever, but I'll get, there'll be times when I'm just scrolling Instagram,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of entrepreneurial stuff that I subscribe to, right?
Hmm.
And I'll see things on there every once in a while where I'm like, oh, that's a really great point, or
Yeah.
that'd be a great thing to, like, teach my class or
Hmm.
show my class. And it might not have anything to do with business at all. It could be, um, I saw a thing on cell phone usage the other day. I
Hmm.
was kind of scrolling mindlessly,
Yeah.
right, like we all do, and there was um, this softball team in California,
Hmm.
27 girls. One of the moms of one of the girls challenged them to go without their phones for 30 days.
Hmm.
Right. So they traded in all their smartphones for flip phones. So they still had
Okay.
access. They can still call people,
Hmm.
but no apps, no nothing, just totally off their phones for that stuff.
Yeah.
They found that, like, their team performed better. They found that they had higher test scores. Um, they found some of the kids were like, it was like a freeing experience for them. Like,
Yeah.
they started talking, and um, there was the mother who started this thing had her daughter's like brain scan before and then after the experiment,
Okay.
and that did show like increased blood flow to the brain, and it showed similar characteristics to somebody going through like a physical withdrawal from
Yeah.
drugs or alcohol
Yeah.
or anything like that. Um, but I thought it was a neat thing because cell phones are always a topic in schools,
Always.
and I showed it to a few of my classes.
Mhm.
Even had one kid that he was like, "Look, I just texted my mom. I was like, hey, can I try doing this?"
Yeah.
And he wanted to go turn his phone in for a flip phone,
Yeah.
and um, just that I would say that's like a non-traditional, right? And
Yeah.
just kind of like seeing what other people are doing and
Yeah.
kind of interesting things. And when I
Yeah.
see something, I'll share it with the class.
Yeah.
Well,
In going off your last point, the new cell phone ban that's
mhm.
happening, I think it's just our state starting
I think so.
right now.
I mean, I think other places have done it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but for New York State, yes,
It
it's
is
kind of a
full
New York
lockdown.
State law.
Yeah. It sounds like not the idea that it's crazy, but definitely a really big switch.
I can see how to young people,
Hmm.
right, who have grown up with these things.
Yeah.
It's like it seems crazy.
Hmm.
How can you possibly go to school? How can you possibly live 7 hours of the day without a cell phone, right? And for me, it's less crazy, right? For
Yeah,
me,
of
that's
course.
how I grew up,
Yeah.
right? We didn't have cell phones; they just didn't exist,
Yeah.
So, I do empathize with
Hmm.
what kids might be going through with that,
Yeah.
from going from one extreme to the other. But let's be honest, you've had teachers like me who have kind of had a lax cell phone
Yeah.
policy, and you've had teachers who
Nothing
don't,
at all.
right? And did you survive those classes?
It's a rough 45
Were
minutes,
you
but
okay?
yes.
Right? So, I mean, I think it's good. I think they are a very powerful tool. I think
Hmm.
they're fantastic, and I use my phone all the time.
Yeah.
Not at work,
Of course.
right? And that's my thing, right? I try to instill habits in people
Hmm.
that go beyond high school, right? So when I yell at a kid, not yell at, I would never.
Stern talk.
When I am on somebody about showing up late to class, it's not about being late to my class,
No.
right? It's about the habit that you are creating for when you have to show up to work, right? And that goes for cell phones, right?
Yeah.
Cell phones, I in the past, I have always kind of said you guys are young adults, right? You should be able to,
Yeah.
kind of meter yourself. I found out after 4 years that's a ridiculous idea that most students can't.
Yeah.
Regardless of the New York State law, I wasn't going to have them next year in my class anyway.
Yeah.
But that's a life skill.
Mhm.
You go to your job, you can't be looking at your phone all the time,
Yeah.
And if you're in the habit of just scrolling, it's hard to just turn that off. Oh, I got a job now. I can't do that.
Nothing. Yeah.
Because I notice a lot of young people still scroll at
Yeah.
their jobs.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be difficult at 1st. I
Of
think we're
course.
going to go through those withdrawals, and but I think over time, I think kids. I have read a little bit about this, and I've looked at some other stories and other places and put it into place. And it starts out rough, and kids tend to adapt, and the end result for most of those kids is they're like, "That's kind of cool."
Yeah.
Right? We're talking to people again. Like
Yeah.
we sit down at the lunch table and we're having conversations, and so I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, I think it was like 2007 that the iPhone was made. So my sisters never lived without an iPhone in the world.
Yeah,
which is
wild.
insane to think about.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I think back to my first cell phone in my sales job.
Exactly,
It was
the
like
big old
it was like a brick.
brick,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing how much I've adapted.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe that's all I have for you today. Thank you for coming in, talking with me.
Like I said, I think it's awesome what you're doing, and I look forward to seeing what some other alumni are doing.
Oh yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
I'm connecting with a lot of people, a lot more people now.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna be great.
yeah. That is it for the Career Conversations podcast.